welcome to the Photos by Orion vlog. My name's Corinne.
And I'm Catherine.
And today we're going to talk about why to have two photographers at your wedding. And that's a big question a lot of couples have. What does it mean to have one photographer, to have two photographers? What kind of, why should you have two? Should they be, what things do people need to consider when they're having two photographers? So can you explain to us what would be, what's a good reason couples should consider having two photographers at their wedding?
Coverage mostly. So when you have one photographer, you only get one vantage point of everything throughout the day. So if that photographer is with the bride, then the photographer with the bride. Whatever the groom or the other fiance is doing, we don't know. They're off and gone. The photographer can't cover that because you can only be in one place at one time. So many couples that do choose to have two photographers do so because they want more vantage points and they want more coverage. So like I work with my husband and he usually goes with one of the couple and I go with the other. So we have both perspectives of getting ready, of what's going on right before the ceremony. And then he and I meet up right beforehand, right before the ceremony starts, so that we can just confer and make sure, okay, well, I'm going to be in the front and getting pictures up there. He's going to be in the back and getting angles that are different. Just kind of laying out that plan for the day, for the ceremony. And having the two photographers there is important because you get that double perspective. So while I might be covering the couple and getting a shot of them with the officiant right up in the front, he is looking at what the maid of honor or the best man or what one of the bridal party is doing, or maybe he's getting a picture of mom who's dabbing her eye as she's crying, or dad who's, like, yeah, I get it, or all the different pieces that can be happening all at the same time when you have more people than just the two of you at your wedding. So having multiple perspectives is a good thing as you go through your day, just because you get more of that sense of all the things that happened that you weren't there for.
Another thing that I always considered with having two photographers, like everyone has kind of those posed photos that they do, whether they're done before the ceremony or after, however the couples choose to do that. But can that process also go faster if there's two photographers? How does that kind of work? How do you two specifically work together when there's
we're a little bit different. A lot of times when you have two photographers and you're doing the post photography, one is shooting the pose thing and the other is shooting everything else that goes on when you're not clicking. Because everybody stands there and cheese, and then as soon as they hear the click, then they all break down and start, laughing with each other and making jokes. And so the second photographer can be there to capture that. The way that we work here at Photos by Orion, because we are husband and wife, and he's the technical photographer and I'm the people person, he actually gets behind the camera and I set everyone up and get the groups moving through a lot faster. So while he's taking the one photo, I'm already grabbing the next group that needs to go in. And so we cover the same amount of photos that a single photographer would do, or a photographer where it is only one photographer doing the posed photography, in half the amount of time, because I'm there organizing people and we're just moving everybody through and it works really well. That helps all the people who aren't the couple get through the photos faster and get to the party, because otherwise, especially the bridal parties, they stand around and they don't want to be there for an entire hour if they can go off and, get a drink. And especially in summer weddings when it's super hot,
oh gosh,
they're ready to go and have a drink and get some food and do all of that. So, the couple kind of expects to get all these photos and they have to take the time and they set that aside. But it helps a lot when we do move them through that quickly, that family gets to go off faster, that the bridal party gets released faster. It keeps everybody happy through the day, which is a good thing, because you don't want to be at each other during your wedding day. That's just not right.
Yeah. Bridesmaids and groomsmen aside, the flower girl and the ring bearer, they need to be done quick.
Yes, so getting all the pictures with them first, usually a good thing.
A good plan. So with that in mind, I know the other part of that is a lot of people never really know how long to have their photographers for. There's so many photographers and there's so many packages and different time frames and things like that. What do you recommend for, capturing everything for the day, and what's your most popular package for time frame?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question.
Oh, okay.
And that's because every photographer is different and every photographer works different. So it's very hard to compare photographer packages, which is why people have so much trouble knowing really how much their photography is going to cost. So like with us, because I am getting people through faster with the posed photography, because there's the two of us and we work so well together as the husband and wife team, we can do in 4 hours what a single photographer or a team that doesn't, can't read each other's minds like we do, can do in 8. So as I said, each photographer is kind of different in what they do. So when you find a style that you like and you start looking at photographers that do that style, ask them how long it typically takes. Most of them will give you a number. And some of that's the amount of time that they like to take, because that's what gets those photos that have made you fall in love with that photographer. So I know of a team out of Portland who work as 3 photographers and they don't do less than 8 hours. That's just the way that they work. And they get a specific type of photo. If that's the kind of photo you love, you're probably looking at least 8 hours, and you're going to want 2 to 3 people. But, so it depends on your style. It depends on the photographer and how well they work. For us, with the way that we work, usually we're 4 to 6 hours. So I've got 4 different package sizes starting at 2 hours and going all the way up to 8. I have never needed 8 hours. We have only ever needed 6 hours about a dozen times in, what are we at, 12 years now. A dozen times in 12 years, so maybe once a year. And a lot of that has to do with we've got something to cover that's going on later in the night. So the couple is leaving and have a specific kind of send-off that they want to capture. So they're staying for a lot of the reception, and it's some downtime in there because you don't want 500 pictures of people dancing
or eating.
So it takes a little more time, and we have to just wait for that last thing that's happening that they really want covered. Like I had a couple who went by helicopter at the end of their wedding. They really wanted that covered. I totally get that. It was awesome. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
It takes more time. So we had to do 6 hours for that one. It was not one that we would be able to cover in 4 because of that send-off and because it was something very special that they wanted covered. But in general, 4 hours is pretty good for most weddings.
Yeah, see, those are all types of things. So like I said, you do see a lot of packages of different lengths, and I know that you even offer different length packages, and it's like, okay, well, what can you get there and what's needed here? And I just think people may get kind of bogged down in that, oh my gosh, we need them there for 8 hours. You don't really need them there for 8 hours unless you're having something
very specific
or
it's a special kind of photography that they need that extra time. Yeah. Well, and even now, so right now with smaller weddings happening, micro weddings happening, I don't need 4 hours for that most of the time now. We can cover those smaller weddings where you've got 25, 30 people there in 2 hours. We really can. So save a little money there and don't book as much time. The nice thing for us is we only book 1 wedding per day. So if you book us for your wedding, you are it for us. So we have the rest of the night that if we need to add an hour afterwards, we don't need to know till it's right at that time. The last wedding we did, they wanted a little bit more time because things were just going a little slower than they were thinking they would, and so they added an hour of extra time. But we don't need to know that until we're at the wedding, so that's super nice.
That's nice to have that flexibility, not feel so kind of locked in on everything on that day. That's nice. That's a nice feature. All right, well, if you do have any more questions about wedding photography or have any questions at all, you can reach out to Photos by Orion at photosbyorion.com. Also, you can reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Photos by Orion. You can also call, what's the phone number again?
503-385-1435.
And also email is contact@photosbyorion.com. Feel free to reach out at any time if you have any questions. Thank you for watching.